Hi, we're here at MSIgnite with Becky and Larry, who are going to share some of the insights about Yammer with us. Hi, Becky. Hi, Larry.
Hello.
How are you guys?
Good.
Great.
Good to have you here. Thank you for sparing a couple of minutes before your session. So I wanted to ask you a couple of things. Do you feel like Yammer has been recently getting a lot of attention, or is it pretty much? Do you feel more excitement than few years ago?
Kind of do. I mean, for me, it's always been exciting just because I love it. But yeah, the roadmap we saw was really, really, really cool. Things coming.
Good things coming. Okay, that's actually one of my questions. But before we jump into that, I wanted to ask you, how did you discover Yammer for your organization?
Well, for me, it was kind of serendipity. An executive came to me and said, I want a way to keep my team, who travels a lot, in touch without using Facebook or email. He's like, isn't there something called Yammer? And sure, and then look it up. It turns out it was turned on in our company, but then nobody had done anything with it because that's what companies do. So, and that happened around 2014, and SharePoint conference was around then. So that's where it all started.
That's how it happened.
Yeah.
And so basically, you didn't have to really sell Yammer with an organization. If you were to recommend to someone how do you sell Yammer with an organization, what would you say? What were some of your tips?
I'd actually ask them to find out what their pain points are. Is there communication breakdown? Do they want to bring global teams together? Do they want to even bring a small company together? Communication breaks down anywhere. Do they want to just have a good fostered a sense of openness, communication, and keep the communication channels open?
Larry?
And I would also encourage that you focus on a strategy. And what is it that you want to use Yammer for? And if one of those things is that you want to use Yammer for sharing information, really make that the one place where information is stored. And that's a way that you can compel your users to come to this space rather than having to share it in a number of different platforms.
Perfect, thank you. And so if you were to suggest for someone to listen to some cues or keywords from users or from executives, what would you suggest to listen to that will make that kind of decision in your head? You need Yammer.
Well, you always hear, it's a cliche, but breaking down silos. It's a thing, and Yammer does that. So that's like a big thing for us.
I think that the best thing that we have that sells Yammer at our organization is time. And just spending time in the platform and not giving up on it after a year or two, because it can be a very new thing for lots of people on the team, but absolutely to provide for a more transparent and collaborative organization.
And can Yammer run on autopilot, or do you need some sort of a person to sort of supervise it?
If you build it, they will not necessarily come.
No.
Yes, and you really need somebody not only to create the space, but to give it some love and to make sure that people understand why they should be here and to provide the information and conversations in this space that's really going to bring them back.
So what are some of the tips that you guys used in your organization to kind of foster the adoption and bring some excitement? Can you share some of the things with us?
I mean, in the beginning, you're going to find yourself doing it a lot more until it really takes off in your company. But you just kind of, even just saying, hey, you should put that on Yammer until you get other people saying it for you. And then you also watch who are the early adopters, the people who fill out their profiles. There's always somebody, and you say, you want to be a community ambassador, volunteer, stop any time, and they generally don't. And then they're the ones who go out to their departments. So it's not just one person. Because of course I would say, put it on Yammer because I'm the admin. But if these other people are, that helps infiltrate until suddenly your whole company's on there.
Whenever I'm at a staff meeting and I begin to talk, people know what I'm going to say. And they're going to be frustrated with themselves that I had to say it. That you should share it in our Yammer network. You should post it there. Don't create an email group. I say it over and over again, but over time we've really put a dent in the culture of my organization where people really do work in this more transparent way now because of the functionality that the Yammer network provides.
Great. And so if you were, does Yammer require governance planning? That's another kind of a hot question. Or can it, or is it sort of the tool you enable, things are good and things are relatively steady?
Well, we're probably a little bit different because we're still a small but growing company. We are global, but with us, I mean, it's we're open and collaborative, and it's growing with Yammer. So
How big is your community?
just letting it go. Well, the internal side, we got about, I think, 300 people now. But then also the external network, which is bigger. But yeah, so for us, it's not a big deal.
So the governance wasn't so much of a problem?
Yeah, and I work for a nonprofit organization. So yeah, we do have a community guidelines page that people need to agree with before they activate their account. I really don't believe that people read it. And no, we just really try to keep an eye on things. And in the 4 years that our external Yammer network has been in place, I can really count on one hand the number of times that I've had to go in and deal with an issue that has come up. Everybody knows that 10,000 other people can see the post that they make, and they're really not going to jump out of bounds on what they talk about, what they may be angry or frustrated about. It's really all gone fine.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have too many rules, then people just
Yeah.
get frustrated and leave, so.
Understood. And so are there some specific ways to measure Yammer adoption or some methods that you use? This is more kind of a gut feel, or are there tools that you can clearly say?
Eyeballs are good, but I always back them up with analytics. And now the roadmap said there's going to be more insights for people.
Out of the box.
Yeah, out of the box. Because I use an external network, I need a third party, so I use tyGraph, and that goes way deep, and it shows me engagement and registrations and just all these wonderful, beautiful things on Power BI that helps justify the effort we put into it, really.
And I think it's one thing to gauge what your news feed looks like on any given day, but to have an analytics tool behind the scenes where you can really go deep and you can say, look, we have an engagement rate of 45% this month, which is through the roof, and now you can go in and see why. And see what really sparks that community engagement in a meaningful way.
Perfect. And did you find any kind of interesting or kind of surprising trends through the analytics when you deployed Yammer in your organization?
Well, what I've been most surprised about is when Yammer recently added the ability to include a GIF file, GIF, whatever you choose to say. GIF, I'm told, is the proper way to say that term. That's what I'm told. But when the impact that the addition of the silly little animations, when we attach those to a file, that really attracts to a post, that really attracts eyes to that post. And it adds a sense of fun that we just didn't have before. And though people claim to be annoyed by these things, and they are, I'm annoyed by these things as well, it really does drive engagement of posts. It just does.
And you can track that on analytics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even just eyeballs, the reader lurker things. Yeah.
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 Awesome. And so one last question. I know you got to run to your sessions, so I'm not going to hold you for too long. One last question. From what you've seen at the conference, what are some of the things that stand out that you see how Yammer is going to evolve in the future?
Well, I mean, I always think of back to the roadmap, because there's a section where it's all the vision, the ideas, and it's just every single thing I want. I mean, we're going to get Move Post at some point, which is huge because, I want people using the network, but I don't want them maybe to worry too much about where they're putting things. I can do that for them right now. They'll see it move. There's just further integration with all the other Microsoft products, even just down to having, OneNote? Replacing notes. It's like, that's going to be huge for our company because people love that product. It's like, hey, you can just stay in Yammer and do it,
And what I'm hearing about and seeing a lot about is the growth of Microsoft Teams, the application teams, and how that's going to affect the Yammer platform, where those two platforms intersect and where they don't, and how they can support one another as well. And that's going to be a really interesting thing to explore.
Oh, and don't forget SharePoint.
And Microsoft SharePoint.
Yes, SharePoint and Yammer integration is going to be awesome.
Yeah. So how all of these tools support and integrate with one another, I think, is going to be key.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I thank you both for stopping by and sharing your insights. So this is back in Larry. Thank you, guys.